"I never touched a white man before," said the Apache girl to the young farmer. The sun had begun its slow descent, casting golden streaks across the rolling plains. Lozen moved carefully, her body aching, yet her spirit not entirely broken. The journey through the open fields had left her exhausted, but a small glimmer of hope stirred within her, a hope she did not yet dare to name. She had been alone for so long, relying only on herself, and the world had taught her to be cautious, to expect nothing but the harshness of life. Yet somewhere beyond the horizon, she sensed a presence waiting, though she did not know exactly what or who it might be. Through the haze of sunlight, she saw him, a figure standing quietly among the tall grass. He was a man of gentle stature, yet there was a strength in the way he held himself, a calmness that seemed to stretch into the air around him. His hat shadowed his face, but his eyes caught hers instantly, steady and unflinching. There was no alarm, no sudden gesture of hostility, only a quiet patience that invited her closer without demand. Lozen paused, unsure, the ache in her body mirrored by the uncertainty in her chest. But something in the gentle steadiness of his stance whispered that she might, for the first time in a long while, breathe without fear. He moved slowly, deliberately, holding out a hand not in command but in invitation. Lozen hesitated, every instinct urging caution, yet the warmth in his eyes drew her forward. As she stepped closer, he bent down, reaching for a small satchel beside him. Out came clean linen, water, and a tenderness she had not expected in a stranger. "You don't have to speak if you don't want," he said softly, his voice like a gentle breeze across the plains. She understood only the tone, but it was enough. The words carried a comfort that transcended language. Her breath was shallow as he knelt before her, his hands moving carefully to lift the torn edge of her coat. The cool touch of water on her bruised shoulder sent a shiver through her, but she did not recoil. Instead, a fragile trust began to root itself in the corner of her heart that had long been empty. No one has ever touched me like this," she murmured, the confession barely audible. He paused, fingers steady on the linen, eyes softening, not with judgment but with understanding. A quiet connection sparked in that moment, something unspoken, yet profound. His hands continued their careful work, wrapping the wound with gentle precision, as if each motion could speak the words that her lips could not. "You are safe," he seemed to say. "You are seen. You are not alone." Lozen's knees trembled, and he moved closer just enough to support her without overwhelming, his presence a shield and a comfort all at once. Her gaze traced the lines of his face, the softness in his eyes, the way he exhaled with patience and care. Something inside her responded, a flicker of hope, a daring thought that perhaps she could allow herself to lean on another soul. He offered her water, a deliberate and tender gesture, and she took it, letting the coolness ease the burning ache in her throat. They remained in that quiet space, eyes meeting occasionally, words sparse but heavy with meaning. Lozen spoke first of the land, of the sky stretching endlessly above, of the wind that whispered secrets through the grass. Each sentence revealed fragments of herself she had kept hidden, and he listened, fully present, nodding, tilting his head, the softest acknowledgment that her story mattered. Minutes passed, and a warmth settled between them, delicate but insistent. The sunlight painted him in hues of gold and amber, revealing the faint lines of experience etched into his skin, the quiet strength of a man accustomed to responsibility and care. Lozen's lips curved in a small, tentative smile, and he returned it with one all his own, subtle yet intimate. "Do you trust me?" he asked finally, his voice low, carrying a vulnerability that mirrored her own. She hesitated, the words heavy on her tongue. I think I can," she whispered, and the phrase was a tentative bridge between two guarded hearts. He reached for her hand again, this time allowing their fingers to entwine fully. The contact was brief, yet electric, a pulse of connection that both startled and soothed. Lozen felt a warmth bloom through her chest, the thrill of closeness tempered by the safety he radiated. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, she leaned into him, the faint brush of his arm against hers grounding her in a way the world never had. Then, with the gentlest of movements, He brushed a loose strand of hair from her face, his fingers lingering just long enough to let her feel the intention behind the touch, care, admiration, and a quiet longing. Lozen's heart fluttered. She had never imagined the tenderness of such closeness, the intimacy of touch that carried neither demand nor expectation. "Emmett," she said, the name coming out in a breathless whisper, and in that single word, a lifetime of hesitation and solitude seemed to dissolve. He smiled softly, tilting his head closer. "Lozen," he said, his voice a promise, a quiet vow of presence and attention. Then, without hurry, he leaned in and pressed a gentle kiss to her temple, a tender acknowledgment of the fragile trust she had placed in him. Her eyes closed, and for a moment, the aches of her body, the solitude of her spirit, all faded beneath the warmth of his care. The air around them seemed to hold its breath, suspended in the golden light of the setting sun. Lozen felt her pulse slow, a rhythmic tether forming between them. Each subtle movement, each shared glance, was a silent conversation, a delicate dance of hearts that spoke of more than words could convey. You've made me feel safe," she whispered, barely audible, her lips trembling with emotion. "And you've shown me what it means to care," he replied, his thumb brushing lightly against the back of her hand, reinforcing the bond forming between them. I want to be here, with you, always." A soft warmth bloomed in her chest, a mixture of relief, affection, and desire. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a life in which trust could exist, in which love could grow without fear, in which two souls could intertwine with gentle, deliberate care. He rose slightly, helping her to her feet, their fingers still intertwined, a touch of unspoken promise lingering in the connection. She leaned into him, allowing the closeness, savoring the quiet thrill of intimacy, the soft brush of his hand against hers, the warmth that spoke of something deeper than companionship. "Walk with me," he murmured, guiding her toward the farmhouse, the air around them infused with the scent of wildflowers and sun-baked earth. Each step was a rhythm, a mutual dance, the distance between them collapsing with every heartbeat. Lozen's gaze met his repeatedly, and with each glance, the nascent threads of affection wove themselves into a tapestry of longing, tenderness, and possibility. Inside the farmhouse, the warm glow of the hearth invited them to linger. He guided her to a bench near the fire, and she allowed herself to rest, the tremor in her limbs easing beneath the quiet strength of his presence. Emmett fetched a soft cloth, dampened with warm water, and as he gently tended to her wounds, Lozen felt an intimacy that transcended mere touch. It was a recognition of vulnerability met with care, a reverence for the unspoken promise between them. Her hand brushed against his as she took the cloth, and he did not pull away. Instead, he held her gaze, letting the moment stretch, allowing them to savor the nascent connection without rush or expectation. Lozen realized that this tender, careful, deliberate closeness was the beginning of something profound. You've made my heart feel," she faltered, the words heavy with emotion. "I understand," he said softly, leaning closer, pressing a gentle kiss to her lips, brief yet electric. "Let it feel. Let it grow." The kiss was a quiet promise, a gentle bloom of affection that neither rushed nor demanded. Lozen's breath caught, her body tingling with awareness, her heart swelling with a blend of trust, desire, and hope. She leaned in, closing her eyes, letting the warmth of his lips, the security of his presence, and the gentle rhythm of his heartbeat anchor her. For the first time in months, perhaps years, she felt safe. She felt wanted. She felt love, tentative yet undeniable, beginning to take root in her soul. The sun had set fully, the fire crackled softly, and in the gentle glow of the hearth, two hearts found each other, not through peril or hardship, but through the quiet, profound intimacy of trust and care. And as the night wrapped them in its velvet embrace, Lozen rested her head lightly against his shoulder, and Emmett held her gently, a soft hand resting over hers. In that small, sacred silence, both understood that the journey of their hearts had only just begun, and that the path ahead, though unknown, was luminous with the promise of love, closeness, and the tender unfolding of shared lives. The morning light filtered softly through the small farmhouse window, scattering golden beams across the wooden floor. Lozen opened her eyes and first saw Emmett's face, calm and gentle, sitting at the edge of the bed with a cup of tea in his hands. His presence radiated a quiet safety, a calm she hadn't felt in years, a reassurance that only a truly trustworthy person could give. "Good morning," she said softly, her voice still carrying a hint of hesitation. Emmett's lips curved into a gentle smile. "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" Lozen nodded, a small warmth blooming in her chest at the simple care in his question. She no longer felt the aching fear of vulnerability. Instead, a new, tentative hope began to stir. The trust she had placed in him yesterday had not been broken. It had grown, fragile yet insistent, like the first green shoots after a long winter. She rose slowly, and Emmett reached out a hand to steady her. Their fingers brushed, and for a heartbeat, both felt the silent thrill of connection. That small touch, simple and deliberate, carried more meaning than words ever could. The day passed in quiet intimacy. Emmett led Lozen to a small corner by the window, a sunlit nook where they could sit together. She rested her head lightly on his shoulder, and he brushed his fingers gently through her hair. In that closeness, the world outside, the past hardships, the isolation, the lingering ache of fear seemed to melt away, leaving only them and the tender rhythm of hearts meeting for the first time. "You know," Emmett murmured, his voice soft, "these moments with you, they're very special." Lozen lifted her gaze to meet his and smiled openly, a warmth radiating from within. "Yes, they are special. I never imagined I could feel such softness, such trust, with someone." He held her hand in his, fingers intertwining naturally. Their closeness deepened, a silent promise forming in the simple warmth of touch. Then, almost imperceptibly, he pressed a gentle kiss to her lips, a delicate, electrifying love kiss, a bridge between hearts that had only just begun to understand one another. That small kiss was not merely an expression of affection. It was a seed, planting trust, intimacy, and desire in both their hearts. Lozen wrapped her fingers around his, leaning into the security of his presence. Every heartbeat, every shared glance, wove a tapestry of connection, fragile yet profound. As the sun lowered, Emmett suggested small tasks around the farm, feeding animals, tending to the fields, preparing meals. Each action, each shared moment, strengthened their bond. With every soft touch, every exchanged smile, Lozen felt not just safety, but a growing affection, a sense of being cherished. By evening, they sat together in the golden glow of the setting sun, side by side. Emmett's voice softened. "Lozen, I want you to stay close, always. Your presence brings light to my life." Lozen's chest warmed with emotion. "Emmett, I want that too. I want to be with you, to share my life, every moment, every small joy." He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing it softly, a tender love kiss that conveyed not just desire, but a deep, unspoken promise. Lozen rested her head on his shoulder, the closeness filling her with a sense of belonging she had never known. As the evening shadows stretched long across the farmhouse, Emmett spoke again, quieter now, but with heartfelt certainty. Will you spend your life with me? I want us to marry, to make this bond ours forever, built on trust, love, and care." Tears glimmered in Lozen's eyes, her lips trembling with joy. "Yes, I want that. I want to be with you, to build our life together, to love and trust always." This moment was more than a romantic confession. It was a beginning. A lifelong promise of intimacy, respect, and shared love had been made. Emmett drew her close, and in the soft, flickering firelight, they shared a gentle love bite and a long, deep love kiss, sealing the promise of devotion and tender passion. Night fell, and the two sat together, fingers intertwined, hearts beating in synchrony. In the quiet of the farmhouse, they understood that their love was not fleeting. It was anchored in trust, in shared vulnerability, and in the gentle embrace of two souls who had found one another. From the first meeting in the open plains to the first kisses, touches, and promises of marriage, Lozen and Emmett's love had grown, a tender and resilient bond that would continue to deepen with each day. And in that serene night, as the fire flickered and shadows danced across the walls, both hearts felt the certainty of a future filled with trust, passion, and unwavering love. If you loved this story, don't forget to subscribe and join us for more heartwarming Wild West tales.